All right, my friends. I just pressed the Let's Go Live button, which means we've got to wait for the stream to connect itself all across the fruited plain of the interwebs, and we're hopeful that Rumble is working today. We had a last-minute schedule. Hopefully it's clicked over and working. But we got YouTube's working. We got Telegram, we got locals, and it looks like we are alive all across the fruited plains of the interwebs. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about David Pecker, aka Bragg's Pecker, since he's under subpoena by Alvin Bragg. He was there in court today, all day, day 7, and we're going to get into it. Some mixed reactions to today's testimony, and I think what we're going to see here is there's a nice little bit of separation between David Pecker and between Donald Trump and their knowledge about Stormy Daniels and some sort of cover-up scheme that was going on. In fact, it sounds like this was something that was done over the course of business, kind of a regular thing. Non-disclosure agreements in New York that not only happened with Donald Trump, but happened with a bunch of other people. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was running for governor too, and he didn't get charged on that one. And many others, Tiger Woods, other celebrities, did this type of thing in New York all the time, but only Donald Trump is put under a microscope and the person who's subject to fictional charges being concocted to try to take him out during an election year. So we're going to go into it all day. We've got Donald Trump spoke for a bit before he went into the courtroom in New York City, and we'll see what he said before we jump into Inner City Press's report. We have Matthew Russell Lee was there all day today. All of his links are in the description below, and we'd encourage you to follow him, subscribe to his Substack. And as this trial proceeds, he often will assemble like jury selection. He has a booklet, so you can just, boom, jury selection. What is that? Boom. Read the whole thing. So follow his links. And then we'll wrap up with Donald Trump. And Trump commented, today was a very busy day. This morning, if you missed it here, we also did about a 3.5, 4-hour stream this morning covering and breaking down the Supreme Court oral arguments that occurred on the immunity issue, which is on appeal from Judge Chutkan's courtroom. And so we broke all that down. If you want to just catch my synopsis of it all, I think you can just fast forward to the very end of that and you'll see what the breakdown was. It was about 2.5 hours, maybe two, almost 3 full hours of oral arguments. The court went way long. And then we break it down. Trump also breaks it down. He had some reaction to this. And so we'll see what he says about it as well. And it looks good. Okay, so we got Rumble cooking over there. And it is live. Yay. Okay, it's good. Good news. All right, we're live over there. It took me like 3 tries to get it going today. All right, it's working. Tremendous. And this morning we had our members only after party. We did a full members only after party. Sort of. It was very rushed because we were online for a long time. But we have after parties that happen there. We're doing one today after this stream, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We also do, when we don't have oral arguments, we have a bunch of Membo-only streams throughout the week, 6 of them to be sure, including on Saturdays. We'd love to have you join us. Amazing community, great people, get to know everyone, and come join us. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Also, if you want to check the show calendar, if you're wondering why are they live this morning so early, well, we put it on the calendar to try to keep us all in sync, and you can find that at robertgouveia.com. It's just a Google calendar, so you can add it to your calendar. You can get notifications of the show, just pop up on your cell phone. And so if we move stuff around, you'll be the first to know. Merch stores there, PDFs are there, show reports are there, and the daily newsletter you can sign up, robertgouveia.com. And of course, we also have our Watcher Meetup, first ever annual at Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. You can RSVP for that puppy over there at watcherlodge.com, happening June 29th, 2024, watcherlodge.com if you're interested. And then there is a business event networking called Speakeasy Mastermind that's taking place the Thursday and the Friday. If you want to go to that, of course, make it this a business trip and then come hang out with us on the Saturday, the 29th. So, all right, watcherlodge.com to check all of that out. Links are in the description below. And if you're looking for more stuff to watch, of course, come back and check out our debrief on the Supreme Court oral arguments this morning as soon as you finish here. All right, so without any further ado, let's get into trial activities. Trial day 7 back in session. Bragg's Pecker back on the stand. We're going to jump into the trial testimony, courtesy of Inner City Press. Matthew Russell Lee reporting, links in the description below to his work. But before we do, Donald Trump showed up in New York, and he had a little bit to say before the day's proceedings occurred. And you'll see here, we have it fast forwarded a little bit, because Trump came out and he said, one of the first things I noticed today when we were arriving to this rigged show trial is that the economy doesn't look so good. GDP numbers came out a little bit lower than everybody was expecting, causing some concern, a little bit of panic out there as people realize what's happening with their country. They just keep spending and spending and spending. So Trump gave us a little introduction there, and then he just gives us a little bit of a summation before he turns around, walks in, takes a couple questions, and we'll dive into the testimony right after we get the scene set by the president. And here's some audio.
My constitutional rights have been taken away from me, but every single expert, every legal scholar, every respected scholar has said this is no case. There is no case here. This is just a political witch hunt. Thank you very much.
Are you feeling about the Supreme Court argument in the film? Are you ready to rescind the argument today?
I think that the Supreme Court has a very important argument before it today. I would have loved to have been there, but this judge would not allow that to happen. I should be there, but he wouldn't allow it to happen. I think he puts himself above the Supreme Court.
He certainly does.
Which is unfortunate, isn't it? But the argument on immunity is very important. The president has to have immunity. This has nothing to do with me. This has to do with a president in the future, for 100 years from now. If you don't have immunity,
as a country,
you're not going to do anything. You're going to become a ceremonial president. You're just going to be doing nothing. You're not going to take any of the risks, both good and bad. I mean, you're going to make some great decisions and save the country, and you're going to make some decisions which are unfortunate, but that's the way it is. But you're not going to do anything if you don't have immunity, because otherwise you're going to be prosecuted after you leave office for doing something like going into an area, going into a country, doing lots of things that you wouldn't be doing. And we don't want a ceremonial president. We have to have a real president. And assuming you have the right person, that can make a big difference. You saw that for 4 years when I was president. We were respected all over the world. We had the best economy we've ever had. Everything was good. We had no wars. We defeated ISIS. We had no wars. We had no nothing. But we were respected all over the world. And now it's a disgrace. We also, by the way, had the single best border ever in recorded history of our country. We had the best border ever.
And now it's a disaster through and through, top to bottom. Joe Biden is a failure. All right, let's just jump into the trial testimony. And to do so, we jump over to Inner City Press. You know who he is. Matthew Russell Lee reporting. And we've already retweeted, X'd this. Sorry, Elon, don't ban me. You can follow his work at Inner City Press on X. Please do that. And buy his stuff, because it's good. All right, let's get to it. We're in New York. It's day 7, Trump trial. We are preparing for testimony. David Pecker is going to be back on the stand. We know we had the day off yesterday on Wednesday, and so people are a little bit antsy. We're back in session. Trump has arrived. He's sitting at the defense table, whispering into the ear of his lawyer, Emil Bove. Hey, Emil, what do you think? Pool photographers come into the courtroom. Donald Trump stands there, seated, looking good. Blue suit, red tie today. We're waiting for Judge Mercan. Where the heck is he? Clock is 9:34. He said 9:30. He's late. Boom! The door swings open. Clerk comes in and announces, "All rise." Please be seated. She sits back. She says, "This is the time set for People versus Donald Trump indictment number whatever." Judge Mercan starts the day off. Good morning, everybody. Mr. Bove, would you like to go over what we discussed yesterday? He says, "Certainly, Your Honor. Good morning. We received Your Honor's email." This is Trump's defense attorney. "We got Your Honor's email about embedded hearsay, and we conferred with the government as you thought, and yeah, it was helpful for us." And so to recap what happened here, remember, the government's trying to get in a bunch of documents and a bunch of evidence that the defense says, wait a minute, that evidence that you're trying to admit has statements inside of it that are hearsay. that are out of court statements that are being offered for the truth of the matter being asserted here that Trump is a criminal. And so we can't have that admitted into those documents. So there's portions of the documents that are problematic. So the judge says, what did you do about that? He says, well, yeah, we did. We went and conferred with the government about some of this hearsay in their documents, and that was helpful. So I think we've got some of these issues ironed out. In other words, when the government admits this as evidence, we're not going to object to it because the hearsay has been redacted. We've agreed to pull stuff out, whatever. Government says, Steinglass, Your Honor, I think we're ready. I think we can start with the jury. In the first 2 hours, there's only one document that I might try to get in that's even disputed. So we'll just deal with that when it comes up. So I think we can get going. And Trump's defense says, on that one that he's talking about too, Your Honor, our position is that a redaction is going to be necessary. So we'll just, if we redact it, we're fine with that. Just put a redaction on it, no problem. Judge says, all right, we'll deal with that in the break. All right, are we ready for the jury then? Government says, nope. We also have one other issue we want to bring to your attention, Judge. And of course, we covered this back in day 6 when Trump came out and had a conversation with the media. He mentioned Michael Cohen. We played the clip. We said there's another one. And boom, here they are. So Prosecutor Conroy stands up. Your Honor, we have another order. We have another order to show cause, Your Honor. And he has a thumb drive. He's waving it around. We have video clips, including of what Trump said just outside this courtroom in his press conferences or whatever they are. His speech to the media. He said Cohen got caught lying. He said, when are they going to come look at that? When Cohen was lying. Remember when that federal judge said he was a serial perjurer in a federal document? Says, Trump said that the judge, that's you, Your Honor, looking at him, picked the jury so quickly that it's now 95% Democrats. And then in an interview on a Pennsylvania TV station, again, we played that one yesterday, he said, David Pecker, I don't know exactly what he'll be testifying about. He's talking about witnesses. So, Your Honor, he's violating this again. And this morning, Trump did a press event on 49th Street and Park Avenue. And he told the media there, they're like, scouring this dude. He said David Pecker's a nice guy. And this is just before his testimony. And so it's a message to him and to other witnesses, be nice or else Trump will be coming for you. And so, Your Honor, we ask that you right now find him in contempt. So Trump, allegedly violated it 3 more times, another $3,000 when they come back tomorrow for another contempt hearing, which the judge has scheduled. So the judge says, all right. We'll deal with it. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. We'll handle it. All right, let's get going. He says, please bring in the witness. And Mr. David Pecker comes walking into the courtroom. He's there back on the bench. Judge says, Mr. Pecker, I remind you, you're still under oath. Says, yeah, okay, thanks, Judge. All right, bring in the jury. Jury enters. Everyone stands. Oh, hi, jury. Good morning. Thanks for hearing. We love you. Come in. Government prosecutor stands back up. David Pecker's on the stand. Government says, all right, Mr. Pecker, let's resume on Miss McDougal. Of course, we know Miss McDougal is the former Playmate who was on the cover a bunch. And I think Playmate of the Year, maybe December Playmate of the Month. And you remember what she looks like. Hard to miss. He says, yeah. Well, okay, what do you want to know about her? Let me tell you. She was 47 years old. And she said that she had a sexual relationship with Mr. Trump. He says, wow, really? How'd you learn about this? Did you have a three-way call with Dylan Howard and Michael Cohen that day, Mr. Pecker? He's like, whoa, easy with the three-way stuff, okay? We got on a phone call, all right, that's all. Dylan Howard, Michael Cohen, he says, yeah. Immediately, Michael Cohen told me it's not true. Okay, so someone called, there was a phone call, Dylan Howard, which I believe was another lawyer, Michael Cohen, they get on the call. Cohen says, it's not true. They said, but that's something that Cohen always said. And so then Cohen said, all right, I'll check it out and I'll get it back to you. And so Michael Cohen looked into it. Is that right? Yeah. And when Michael Cohen came back, did he tell you to buy the story? Pecker says, yeah, he did. Dylan said that there was another person who wanted to buy the story also. So they're shopping this around. Dylan said ABC wanted to buy the story too. In fact, they offered her, McDougal, a slot on Dancing with the Stars. Hey, bring us this Trump dirt and we'll put you on TV. That'll be great. You can just swing those things around. And a Mexican group wanted to buy it for $1 million. $1 million for this story about an affair. So, the Mexicans were like, oh gosh, she's going to build a wall. We'll pay $1 million. What do you want? So Pecker's explaining. He says, Dylan said McDougal didn't want to be the next Monica Lewinsky. We know what happened there. But she wanted to restart her career. This is David Pecker on the stand. Of course she did. And she had a cover with us, and Dylan said she'd like to bring the story to us, American media. And so her attorney was Keith Davidson. And so when they came to us, I thought we should buy it. And you had a conversation with Donald Trump about this? That's a good question, right? Wow, okay, this could be implicating Donald Trump with some criminality, right? Wrong. There's no criminality here charged in the indictment at all. All of these allegations, as far as we know thus far, are for Stormy Daniels. Okay, it's from Michael Cohen to Stormy. And the bills evidently are from Cohen to Trump, felony. Trump enters a ledger, felony 2, cuts a check, felony 3. All for Stormy. So they're not even alleging a crime here, right? But they're just smearing the jury with all this. Like, none of this should even be in here. So you had a conversation with Trump about this? Yeah, we did. I was at an investors meeting in New Jersey, says David Pecker. The assistant said, hey, there's a call from you from Donald Trump. He's like, you're kidding, for me? Okay. So I took the call. Mr. Trump said to me, I spoke to Michael. Karen's a nice girl. And he asked, hey, Mr. Pecker, is there a Mexican group out there that's really going to buy this woman's story for $8 million? That's Trump. Pecker says, I said no, but I thought that we should buy the story anyways. He was like, no. He's like, I checked into it. The Mexicans don't want it for $8 million, maybe $1 million, but not 8. But I think we should buy it. Government says, okay. So you're saying that Trump called Miss McDougal a nice girl. Is that what you said? He says, yeah, I believe he knew who she was. And Pecker says, Mr. Trump told me right then. He says, I don't buy stories because it always gets out anyways. Prosecution cuts him off. Yeah. Did Michael Cohen then call you though? Yeah, he did the next day. He said, you should go ahead and buy that story, David. I said, okay, I'll have Dylan Howard negotiate that, another lawyer. And who's going to pay for it? Cohen told me the boss will take care of it. And who do you understand the boss to be, Mr. Pecker? Donald Trump. And I told Dylan Howard to go negotiate to buy the story. And did you discuss the terms? We did. It was $150,000 for lifetime rights. She also wanted to appear in our magazine. She had a problem with her breast implants. And wanted to write about it in Shape magazine. And she wanted to anchor red carpet events for Radar. Yeah, she had a droopy booby problem. And so she needed to fight for justice and explain how predatory and probably patriarchal the industry is as she's inflating her chest with hot air balloons. So she is creating her career, writing this whole story to get back on track. Okay, now how often did you speak with Michael Cohen? Daily, says Pecker. I told Michael Cohen, I said, why should I pay for this? I just paid $30,000 for the doorman story. And who's going to reimburse me for $150,000, says Pecker. And what did Cohen say? Well, he said the boss will take care of it. Government says, I'd like to introduce People's Exhibit 173. You recognize this? Start with page 1. These are marked for the government, text with Dylan Howard. You recognize these? He says, yeah, I do. They're texts. Okay. And here on this page, Dylan Howard texted that he'd spoken with MC about the other issue. What do you understand that to mean? Texted. Dylan said, I'd spoken with MC, presumably Michael Cohen, about that other issue. What did you understand that to mean? Pecker says, what? Can you clarify what you're asking? He says, well, I can't testify, but was there a contract signed with Karen McDougal? Droopy Booby McDougal? Yes, the first week of August 2016, we signed it. Were you concerned about buying the story when you bought this from her? Pecker says, yeah, I did. I'd bought a story before for Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was buying Flex, and I was told I had to meet Arnold, who said he wanted our tabloids not to run anything against me, is what he said. Why? He was running for governor. Oh, I wonder if they indicted him for that. Did Governor Schwarzenegger put in there in his billing records something more lawful? And if so, what was that? Or did his lawyers sign these NDAs like everybody does? Arnold, and you know what's so funny about this? It's like, has Arnold ever come to the defense of Trump for this stuff? Ever stood up and said, this is ridiculous. This prosecution is ridiculous. Okay, this is obviously a joke. We do this stuff all the time. In fact, here he says, there were women selling stories about relationships with Arnold or sexual harassment by him. So I would just buy them up. I'd just go buy those stories up. But one we didn't buy, and she sold it to the LA Times. And so it was very embarrassing for me because I couldn't get it. And I was trying to, protect him, basically. He says, so it was very, very embarrassing for me when it happened. And so I became sensitive about buying stories in the future. Okay, so he's done this whole thing for Arnold. And Arnold's a politician who comes out and bashes Trump as being a, criminal or democracy, blah, blah, blah. This is lawfare. This is a double standard of justice. Maybe Arnold should say, I should be prosecuted too for this, right? Equal justice, right? So what did you take away from this, says the prosecutor? Pecker says, I wanted to be comfortable with that agreement with Karen McDougal. I met all the obligations with respect to a campaign contributions. I wanted to make sure I was lawyered up. So I told Michael Cohen that we consulted with a campaign lawyer. Oh, great. So he went to go get a lawyer to help him through this. Government says, okay, great. I'd like to introduce People's 156. You recognize this? He says, yeah, I do. That's the Karen McDougal contract that we executed with her. It says, I wanted to substantiate the $150,000 payment with the campaign finance laws that the money was for services to AMI. Which, of course, you could imagine anything, right? They're going to put her on a magazine. They're going to put her in these stories and all this stuff. Okay, we'll pay you for your image, your likeness, for your, for those two things. Put those on the cover or whatever. We'll sell a bunch of magazines with those. So, all right, we'll pay you $150,000. No problem. Were the provisions about work for AMI meant to disguise the payment for the life rights to the story? He says, I don't know what you mean. I guess yes. Like they didn't put in the job description on the invoice, cover up sexual relationship allegations with Donald Trump invoice, $150,000. Like they didn't put that in there, right? They said, you're going to be quiet with this allegation. We're going to give you some stuff in exchange for this contractual agreement, and you're going to honor your end. We'll honor our end. There's an exchange there, consideration in the terms. So do you have any intention of publishing the story, Mr. Pecker? He says, no, I did not. No. Now, who was aware about this on the Trump side? Pecker says, Michael Cohen, period. See that right there? Ooh. Who Who was aware on the Trump side? Michael Cohen. Government says, uh-oh. Well, what about Donald Trump? Trump's lawyer says, objection, leading. He's trying to get him to give an answer. Judge sustains that because it's clearly leading. Did Trump do it? Government botched that one. So it said, anyone else? Was there anyone directing Michael Cohen? Whatever. Objection, can't just call out Trump. Sustained, of course. Prosecutor moves on, says, okay, well, what about AMI's? This is Pecker's. Remember, he runs the National Enquirer. They buy the stories. Well, what about AMI's general ledger and this invoice? Because remember, Trump got charged with a felony every time there was a ledger entered, an entry entered, and every time there was an invoice sent by Michael Cohen. So Pecker says, well, here's what we did. This one was from Keith Davidson. So we did the same thing. It was from Keith Davidson. We wired $150,000 into his escrow account. Okay, and is this the payment voucher? He looks at it. He says, yeah. And were you aware of the coordinated contributions? Objection. Trump's lawyer, Mercan, says, what's going on? They come up to the bench. Mercan sends him back. Objections overruled. Government says, were you aware of the coordinated contributions that were made in coordination? Were you aware that those are unlawful? He says, did you report that to the FEC? He says, no, we did not. So why did AMI make this purchase? He says, so it wouldn't run the story, obviously. But why though? Well, we didn't want it to embarrass Mr. Trump or the campaign. He says, oh, we? Who is we? He says it again. Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen did. Period. He's trying to get him to say Cohen and Trump and someone else. He's not. Cohen did it. Okay, so it stops with Cohen, the lawyer, to the president. Did you walk about Mr. Trump, or did you talk about Mr. Trump, though, actually acquiring the right to the story? So not did you talk to Trump, but did you talk about Trump ultimately becoming the owner of the rights? He says, yeah, Cohen said that I should just assign the contract to him. But he said, Michael Cohen called me constantly. Okay, the guy was annoying as hell, obviously, still is. He called me all the time. Like he wanted to get all the files, the boxes from Florida and all the things. Did he say why Trump wanted the boxes? He said, well, yeah, you never know what could happen to David Pecker. He says, man, if I got hit by a bus or something, or the company's acquired or something, he didn't want the materials being published. So like we bought them, we should go get them. Now I told Michael Cohen, says Pecker, what Karen McDougal was going to do for us, I valued at $25,000, right? So I would sell the lifetime rights for $125,000. And Michael Cohen said, that's great. We can do that, no problem. $125,000, she'll take it. And it just makes it seem like much more of a fake story. Like if the Mexicans will give her $1 million for it, why didn't she take that? I don't know. So he's like, okay, it's probably not a real story. This is what I can get. Here you go. And I'll take it. Now, he's also going to be getting a benefit from this, like $25,000 maybe per year, right? She's going to be on cover of magazines, writing articles and stuff. And so he'll get to monetize her likeness and her celebrity. And he's going to be buying a story. So it's not like this is money going into the bottom of a barrel. He's going to be leveraging this transaction and also getting some favor with Trump for saying this woman was going to say something bad, and we've silenced that and given her what she really wants is just attention. So they say, okay, here's the invoice. People's 161. Pecker says this is from a company owned. It's an invoice. He shows him. Pecker says this is from a company owned by Daniel Rothstein. He lives in Plantation, Florida. He would write a check for us, for example, for paparazzi photographers. And so I wanted the Trump Organization check to go through him. And so Michael Cohen created Resolution Consultants, and they say, okay, I move to admit it, whatever. He says, okay, jurors, look, listen, this is not offered for the truth of the matter, only to show you that there was an invoice that existed. Government says, well, can you give us a shorter answer? Why did you use Daniel Rothstein? He says, I didn't want a payment in AMI from Trump or from Michael Cohen. I didn't want it coming from them. Why not? He says, well, other editors would find out about it, and I didn't want that to happen. What was the name of Daniel Rothstein's company? He says it was called Investor Advisory Services, Inc., and I assume Michael Cohen was being reimbursed. So then I decided to reverse it. Michael Cohen said, the boss is going to be very upset with you if you don't go through with this or something. And I told him, I said, I'm not going forward. Did AMI ever get reimbursed for that? Pecker says no. Government says, okay, let's take a break here, Judge. They do. 20 minutes go by, we fast forward. Mercan's back on the bench. Jury is not in yet. Judge says, okay, now this document in which AMI's general counsel released Sajudin, who's the doorman claimed that he had a story about Trump having a kid with someone. You may need another witness to bring it into evidence. Trump's lawyer says, well, the next one is from Dylan Howard, who is also not testifying, and so that name should be redacted, so please redact it. And the judge says, yeah, I agree, there are details that could be redacted. And so the government says, okay, we'll send around some proposed redactions, and we'll take a look at it. Now, jury's still not in. Trump's lawyer says, okay, and this is a text message between Dylan Howard and somebody. Government says, whoa, watch it, buddy. Emil Bove says, I'm sorry, didn't mean to say that out loud. I didn't mean to mention a name. Don't know who that is. Dylan Howard and somebody. Prosecutor says it's a first degree relative of Mr. Howard, but it was on an AMI device. So you're saying they're business records? Government says, I'm saying they're authenticated, so yeah. And says Dylan Howard texted his relative. Candidate denies this, but I'm going to interview. Relative, why are you going if you're not going to publish it? Dylan wrote, information is powerful and I'm collecting a lot. Only DP knows burner phones. So we think, says the prosecutor, all of that shows Dylan Howard's state of mind. Then there are the election night texts where Dylan Howard texted his relative, says, at least if he wins, I'll be pardoned for electoral fraud. Mercan says, well, I will consider this again over lunch, but that they come off an AMI device is not enough for me. Are we going to be done with Mr. Pecker today? Are we going to be done with both direct and cross? Government says, I don't know. I have a good 2 to 3 hours left. Trump's lawyer says, we're not going to finish today, Judge. Judge says, all right, let's get the witness and the jury back. Mr. Pecker, you remained under oath. Jury comes back in. All rise. All right. Prosecutor, back with Pecker. Mr. Pecker, after the election, you released Dino Sajudin. That's the doorman. And they gave the doorman like 30 grand because he said he had a story about some affair. Pecker says, yeah, we released him. That was December 2016. And the Access Hollywood tape? Oh, yeah, I remember that. That was a conversation between Mr. Trump and Billy Bush. Mr. Trump said you can grab a woman by the purse, and it was damaging for the campaign. We all remember that. Government says, well, what's this email? Do you remember this? He says, yeah, it's about a post on Radar. He says, you can take it down. He says, well, no, please read it. It says, Howard wrote to Michael Cohen that the Playboy Man story was on Radar before we bought the site. And it was also sent to Hope Hicks. Hope Hicks worked for Trump. Did you ever email with Donald Trump, Mr. Pecker? No. Okay, well, I want to turn your attention to another matter here. When did you first hear about Stormy Daniels, Mr. Pecker? He says, well, which is actually the charged conduct related to her NDA and payments. When did you hear about Stormy Daniels, Mr. Pecker? Well, I was having dinner with my wife and I got a call from Dylan Howard. He said Keith Davidson and Miss Rodriguez, an agent for those type of celebrities, those types, that Stormy was selling a story about sex with Trump. Can you read me your text with Dylan Howard? He says, yeah, he wrote to me. He said, okay, they sent me a text. They said the price is $120,000. And there's also interest from the Daily Mail or Mail and from GMA. And I responded, I said, I don't want AMI linked to some porn star. Disgusting. It would be bad with Walmart, our biggest distributor. So we don't want that story. And I told him, I said, look, we already paid the doorman $30,000 and $150,000 to McDougal. I'm not a bank. So Dylan Howard contacted Michael Cohen. Right? He's shopping the story around. Okay, you don't want to buy it. Who else? And I spoke with Michael too. And Michael said, can you just pay for the story? I said, no, I'm not going to be involved with some porn star. Get out of here. Pecker says, so Dylan came to my office near the end of October then. Michael Cohen was supposed to wire the money to Keith Davidson, but he didn't. Dylan was worried that he'd lose the sources. And so Michael Cohen says, David, you should pay. I said, no, you buy it or the boss will be angry. Government says, is there a record of your interview with the FBI? He says, yeah. Is this it? Yeah. I want to show you this 302B. Go to page 5 here. Why did you make calls on Signal, the private messaging app? Pecker says, well, Michael Cohen said to use it. He says things are deleted after a time. And did there ever come a time that Keith Schiller told you that Karen McDougal was going on ABC, who may have also wanted the story? Yes, says Pecker. I checked with Dylan Howard, who said it's not true. I told Keith and he said the boss is very pleased. But then the Journal was calling our spokesperson and Trump was very mad. Okay, he had told me that it must have been us that were leaking the story, so the story got out anyways. I said, no, Mr. Trump, it's not us. I said, it must have been Karen McDougal. But Mr. Trump was agitated and our call ended pretty abruptly. Oh, no, what do you mean abruptly? Well, Trump didn't say goodbye, which was very rare. I think it's important to say goodbye, you know, and sometimes you're mad, it happens. Why did you put out a statement that AMI does not pay to kill stories, Mr. Pecker? He says, I wanted to protect my company and myself and Trump. I asked Dylan to call Keith Davidson, who said that Karen McDougal was in Arizona, not taking calls. And Karen has another lawyer approach us. And so they came and they were asking about the agreement to be amended. And I thought it should be, now that the Wall Street Journal had the story. And I thought she should have a media consultant reporting to us. And then Michael told me that he wasn't reimbursed for Stormy Daniels. And Michael told me that he also didn't get his bonus. So he asked me to speak to Trump to help him get his bonus. And I did that. I said, Mr. Trump, I believe Michael Cohen would go in front of a bus for me. And Mr. Trump said, well, Cohen owes 50 taxi medallions, owes, or maybe owns or something. Said Michael was in his, Mr. Trump said, Michael has apartments in my building. Says, I'll take care of it. Says, okay, I'll talk to him. So then I was invited to Trump Tower. And there was more security than I had ever even seen. Jared Kushner saw me, took me upstairs to Mr. Trump's office or the waiting room, wherever we were. And in the waiting room, Pecker says, Keith Schiller said, hey, how's our girl? Meaning Karen McDougal. And then I was summoned in and Mike Pompeo and others were there telling him about Fort Lauderdale and the shooting that day. And Mr. Trump introduced me as the head of the National Enquirer. This big room, Mike Pompeo, who at the time, if this is 17, you know, may have been CIA director or whatever. So Mr. Trump told them, he says, he told them, I knew more than anyone in the room. It was a joke, but they didn't get it because they're so dumb. That's a funny joke. So he goes in here, all these national security people, Secretary of State, Pompeo, you know, CIA, Secretary of State, all these people, all in there. And Trump says, hey, morons. This guy from the National Enquirer knows more than all you. They don't laugh at that. They're like, and the National Enquirer's like, dead right. He's like, I probably do. So they didn't get it. They left. They're like, bah, bah. Mr. Trump, they probably started to set him up with Russian collusion. And then Mr. Trump asked me, he said, hey, how's my girl? Or how's our girl? He thanked me for the doorman story. And he said, what does that mean? The doorman story, you know, for buying them. Do you think he wanted the stories for his family or were they for the campaign? He says, I think the campaign. He did not mention his family, so I assumed it was for the campaign. Did he mention what Melania or what Ivanka might think? No. And what happened next? Well, he invited me to the inauguration, and I asked, well, how will we speak? And he said, well, he'd get a phone for friends, but it never transpired, and we left it like that. Judge says, okay, this is a good time to break, and this is a good time to remind you about Inner City Press and how great this reporting is. Thank you to Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee. Please be sure to follow him and subscribe to his work and buy his stuff on Amazon. Now, we take a break. Pecker leaves off the stand. Jurors get a break. And Mercan says to the lawyers, all right, come back here at 2:15. We fast forward, and we're back. Now, the judge says, before everybody's back in the courtroom, says, all right, the parties are there, says, all right, I've signed the order to show cause, which presumably is for these new contempt claims, saying that Trump violated the gag order again. Now, how about the texts? So we're going to get into some new documents that are going to be admitted into the jury, into exhibits for the jury to look at. So how about these texts? He says, how are we, or what are we doing with these? I know they're coming up. What's coming in? Well, government says we're introducing them as business records, and it was part of the regular business of AMI, and they are discussions between co-conspirator Dylan Howard and Miss Rodriguez, which is insane because there's no conspiracy charge here. Mercan says, so what I'm looking through here is 15 pages of text messages. Government says, well, you don't necessarily have to do it today, Judge, but we could bring them in later with a summary witness or whatever. He says, okay, I'll appreciate that. All right, bring in the witness. So we got Pecker back on the stand. Now he says, your mind, you're under oath. Jury back in. We're ready to go. Prosecutor continues. Says, all right, Mr. Pecker, let's turn now to July 2017. Did you visit the White House? I did. Yeah, I received a call from President Trump's assistant. Her name was Madeline. I don't remember her last name. And Trump invited my wife and me for a thank you dinner to come over. Now, my wife didn't want to go. President Trump told me I could bring friends and associates. It was my thank you dinner. And did you take Dylan Howard and Daniel Rothstein with you? He says, yeah, I did. And did Karen McDougal come up? Yes, she did. And President Trump asked me, how's Karen doing? I told him, she's quiet. You know, it's good. Did you and Dylan Howard take any photos together? He says, yeah. What's this photo? Jury shown a black and white photo of Dylan Howard and then one of Trump and Pecker looking like a couple of handsome gentlemen. He says, in August 2017, David, did you meet with Karen McDougal? He says, yeah, I did. At Il Postino. Sounds nice. With Dylan and Keith Davidson. Karen talked about the article that she was preparing with her ghostwriters for her Droop situation, and Dylan had to change them to work better with her. Oh, gosh, she's high maintenance too. You're not capturing the proper shape. You have to be more articulate with your adjectives. She's screaming at her ghostwriters. Oh, gosh. So they get in new ghostwriters who can chronicle the carnage to her breasts. Pecker says, well, my purpose was to make sure we were complying with our agreement to keep her in our family, so to speak, that she not go to speak to the press. All right, now I want to go to January 2018. Trump's still president. Did another article come out that Michael Cohen paid Stormy Daniels? Pecker says yes. And how about now to March 2018? Did you learn that Karen McDougal was interviewed by Anderson Cooper? Yeah, another one, right, on Cooper's show. You're interesting. You're fascinating to talk to, Anderson. So she shows up. Pecker says, yeah, I watched it. You know, the next day Trump called me. Donald, he says to me, did you see it? The Stormy Daniels thing, says Pecker. Government cuts him off. I'm only asking about Karen here. I don't want to hear about Stormy. Did he ask you about Karen? He said, did you see the interview with Cooper and Karen McDougal? I thought we had an agreement. I told him, I said, Mr. President, I know I amended it. And he got aggravated. Why? Why'd you amend it? I thought we had it all figured out. He couldn't understand why. And did you speak with him and the White House staff? He says, yeah. Hope Hicks was on the call. I think she was communications. Sanders, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I said I would extend her contract, and he thought that was a bad idea, but said, it's your business, and so do what you think. Now, did Miss Dougal sue AMI back? Yeah, she wanted back her lifetime rights, right? So she's going to go get it back anyways. You can never, have enough. Pecker, I told Michael Cohen, I said, I'm not going to litigate this. I'm just going to give her back the rights. Exactly right. Smart business. Here, just take them. Okay. So not only did she get the money, she gets her rights back, and she gets her droopy booby story worked on by ghostwriters. Got it. Nice. And Trump's the exploiter here. Got it. So now government says, what about Stormy Daniels? Mr. Trump asks if I'd seen it. He says, yeah, did you see the Stormy Daniels? Says, she's violating the agreement. There's $1 million damages every time she uses my name. Government says, did you receive a letter from the FEC and call Michael Cohen when you got the letter? He says, yeah, I did. I told Michael I'm worried. I said, I got this letter from the FEC, man. I'm nervous. He said, why? He said, Jeff Sessions is the attorney general and Donald Trump has him in his back pocket, from Michael Cohen, right? Talking a big game. Now, did you enter a non-prosecution agreement, Mr. Pecker, with the Southern District of New York, the feds who investigated this? Yes. And did the agreement, objection from Trump, did the judge overruled? Government says, is this the agreement? He says, yes. And in this agreement, there's a bunch of language in here. It refers to the candidate. You see that? He says, yes. And who is the candidate in this non-prosecution agreement, which is basically like a plea deal? We won't prosecute you if you agree to these things. Who is the candidate, right? They just wanted him to sign this. He says, Mr. Trump. And he reads from the non-prosecution agreement, blah, blah, blah. And who was the model in this non-prosecution agreement? Karen McDougal. And he continues to read. It says, AMI has also agreed to implement several improvements to ensure compliance. Now, did you sign a cooperation agreement with my office here in Manhattan, the District Attorneys of New York? Pecker says, yeah. He reads from that agreement too. And were you given immunity at the grand jury? He says, I was. And did AMI reach a conciliation agreement with the FEC? He says, yes, I did. It was after I left the company, but they paid a fine of $180,000, which is how most of these things are rectified, like Hillary Clinton's problem when she used her lawyers to create fake PP research against Donald Trump, and nobody went to jail for that one. Prosecution says, did you learn of FBI searches of Michael Cohen's home, David? He says, yeah, they came from my home too, and I learned of the search of Michael Cohen's apartment. Mr. Pecker, when was the last time you spoke with Trump? 2019. Did Trump ever reach out to you? Not directly. Friends would go to Mar-a-Lago and Trump would send his regards. Now, do you have a bad feeling towards him? He says, no. No, I don't. Let me give you an example. He says, after 9/11, anthrax was sent to our offices in Boca Raton and an employee died. I was down, and the first person who called me was Donald Trump. He introduced me to insurers. He says, thank you, Mr. Pecker. No further questions. Cuts him off, right? Do you have any ill will towards Trump? No, actually, he's the only person who ever did anything useful for me. Thank you for that. I was down in the count. He called me. He was there. He introduced me to insurers. He says, shut up. No further questions. Your witness. Defense attorney Emil Bove stands up for cross-examination. He says, may we approach, Your Honor? They go to the judge's bench. There's a whispered sidebar. Psh, 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 psh. Goes back. All right, Mr. Pecker, hello. Trump's defense says, now, sir, you were an executive at AMI from 1999 to 2020, right? Yes. And you had a board and you had investors, correct? Yes. And you had a duty to make money for investors, and you engaged in what some people might call checkbook journalism. Is that right? Yes. And you only published about half the stories that you bought. Is that right? Yeah, that sounds about right, about half, give or take. Can you give me some examples of why you wouldn't publish a story? Mr. Pecker says, well, we'd vet the story. We'd see if there was an interest in the story. We might trade it for another story. He says, okay. So you might buy a story to gain leverage over a celebrity, to give an interview, for example, or their likeness. Hey, we won't publish this, but come over and say hello. Is that right? Yeah. Now, from 2015 to 2017, Dylan Howard was working for you, right? Yeah. And he was the chief content officer. Yes. And Daniel Rothstein, he had the company call up People's Exhibit, the invoice, and he used him to take care of large, sensitive payments. Is that right? Rothstein handles the money. Yes. Now, what was the circulation of the National Enquirer back then? Well, we had a good number, about 350,000 readers. And about 70% of your sales came from newsstands? Yeah. And you had researchers and a model to maximize your profit. Is that true? Yeah. And a president was the top-selling celebrity, wasn't he? Yes. And so you had the launch of George Magazine, in fact, at Mar-a-Lago, didn't you? Yes. And there was a Trump-style magazine. And for a long time then, you had a strategy of not publishing negative stories about President Trump, because you also had a Trump-style magazine, like an actual magazine, so you don't want to bash your own brands. Correct? You had a long strategy. And this goes all the way back to 1998. You let President Trump know about a negative story about Marla Maples, didn't you? I did. And you didn't stop it, but you tried to, right? Right. And you ran positive stories about Trump, didn't you? Yeah. And those stories made money. Yeah. Now, before this case ever occurred, you've been in this industry for a long time. Oh, yeah. Before we got here, you'd never heard the phrase catch and kill. Is that right? He says, right. I never heard of it. They just made it up. He says, so it was the prosecutors who taught you that phrase, right? Yes, they taught me. And you have similar relationships with other politicians too, don't you? For example, you did this for Ron Perlman of Revlon too. You stopped a story against an opening of Planet Hollywood in which he owned a stake. Is that true? Yes, I did. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, you needed his blessing and you reached an agreement for him. Is that right? He was given an equity stake and positions in the company. And then women come out of the woodwork, right? There were 30 or 40 of them or something. He says, yeah, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to purchase stories for Arnold Schwarzenegger, another politician who's not sitting in Bragg's courtroom right now. You sent Gigi Goyette to Hawaii, didn't you? Pecker says, yeah, we did. And you also purchased a story concerning Tiger Woods, right? He says, yeah, a source agreement. And you purchased photos of a woman meeting with Tiger Woods with a parking lot in Florida. And you used them to force him to appear on the cover of Man's Fitness. Okay, so they say, Tiger, my man, we got some photos of you with another one. He's like, ah. We'll hold it if you come show up. He does. He did. So you've suppressed negative stories for Ari Emanuel, right? He says, yeah, him or one of his celebrities. He says, who? You know, Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg apparently had an argument with his wife. The story was going to come out, and I told him where to go buy the rights. And you did it for Rahm Emanuel. Oh, who worked in the Obama White House. Didn't you buy stories for him? Yes. This story was about an affair, right? After Rahm Emanuel left the White House. Now, you did this while pursuing a business venture in Chicago, didn't you? Yeah, I did. The Wasserstein Perella. So Biden's chief of staff, I believe, was Rahm Emanuel, Obama's. And he's a politician who also went to run in Chicago and was buying stories. But he's not sitting in Alvin Bragg's courtroom, is he? Trump's defense says, Mr. Pecker, you also told the grand jury a meeting with Mr. Trump took place in August. But then you changed to mid-August, right? You said early to mid. He says, I don't recall. You were under oath at the grand jury, right? Yeah. But now you've changed it. Objection. He says, sustained. He says, it's hard to remember, right? Probably argumentative. It's hard to remember things, isn't it? Yes. Your mind fills in the gaps, correct? He says, yes. And how many meetings with prosecutors have you had this year, Mr. Pecker? He says, oh gosh, 4, maybe 5. And you met with federal prosecutors too, didn't you? Yeah. How many times? 5 or 6 times. And then you met with Bragg's DA office, right? And they practiced with you, not a script, but you knew what was coming, right? Yes. And Michael Cohen, he asked you for help that had nothing to do with President Trump, didn't he? All the time. He says, yeah. For example, he asked you to help his daughter's rock climbing company, didn't he? Yes. And Cohen told you that he was not working for the campaign at all. Is that true? Yes. And the FBI soon came to your house. You were subject to an FEC inquiry. And it was important for you to get everything out, right? Yes. But you didn't tell anyone that Hope Hicks participated in the meeting before, did you? Objection. Please approach. Sustained. Trump's defense says, okay, before that little break there, when asked, you did not mention Hope Hicks before, right? Can I see what you're referring to? He says, I'll bring it up, but only for Mr. Pecker and the parties here. He says, all right, this is a report on the meeting that we're talking about. Now, you did not tell the government that Hope Hicks was there in the Trump Tower meeting before. He says, well, I don't know what page you're referring to. He says, well, that's why I gave you the document. It says on August 2nd, you met again with the prosecutors about the August 2015 meeting. He says, I need to see the report. He says, you need to see the report to remember this? He says, yes. Now, at no point did you mention Hope Hicks, objection. And you also testified to the grand jury, objection, may we approach, sidebar. They're talking up at the judge's bench, whispers in the air. Judge says, all right, jurors, we're going to go ahead and break there. All right. You're relieved for the day. Thank you for being here. Don't read about the case. See you tomorrow. Jury exits. Government comes back. Says, Your Honor, to show the witness A102, which has nothing about the August meeting, says Mr. Pecker wasn't even given an opportunity. There's no indication he was asked or that it would be a notable admission. So it was improper impeachment from the defense. He says, Your Honor, he asked me for the document. He said, he didn't ask for A102. He said, well, I don't know what's behind the redactions, so I can't see. So I don't know what you're talking. So they're fighting over this document. Judge says, sit down, both of you. I'm going to instruct the jury about it tomorrow. Says you should be careful about this so this redaction crap doesn't happen again. Says tomorrow, government says we're going to apply tomorrow to subpoena the Trump organization. They are available. And he says tomorrow, late morning, see you at 9:30, adjourned. And boom, another day, trial, day 2, day 7 in the House. This is Matthew Russell Lee at Inner City Press reporting. You see all of these amazing links here. Go to innercitypress.com, patreon.com/Matthew Russell Lee. Go to MatthewRussellLeeICP.substack.com and subscribe at Inner City Press on X. Grateful to his reporting, so we can get the updates. And after trial was done for the day, Donald Trump came out and he shared his take on what he says was shocking testimony that we just heard.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Today was breathtaking in this room. You saw what went on. It was breathtaking and amazing testimony. This is a trial that should have never happened. This is a case that should have never been filed. And it was really an incredible day, open your eyes. And we can't let this continue to happen to our country. On another matter, the economy has just been reported to be doing very badly. The stock market's way down, and some horrible numbers came out, including very high numbers on inflation, and in particular gasoline at $7.50 in California. That usually leads the way. It's going to happen here too. And very importantly, as you look at the various colleges all over the country and beyond colleges, because it's happening in other areas too, you see what's happening on the front having to do with Palestine and Israel and protests and hate, anger. Biden is sending an absolutely horrible message. Horrible, horrible message. He has no idea how to message. He can't speak. He can't put two sentences together. He doesn't know what to do. This is not our president. This is somebody that shouldn't be doing what he's doing because he can't do it. He can't do it well. We're having protests all over. He was talking about Charlottesville. Charlottesville was a little peanut, and it was nothing compared, and the hate wasn't the kind of hate that you have here. This is tremendous hate, and we have a man that can't talk about it because he doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand what's going on with our country. He doesn't understand that all over the world we're being laughed at as a country because of him and his administration. And today we had, I hear, because I was forced to be here, and I'm glad I was because it was a very interesting day in a certain way, but the U.S. Supreme Court had a monumental hearing on immunity, and the immunity having to do with presidential immunity. And I think it was made clear, I hope it was made clear, that a president has to have immunity. You don't have a president, or at most you can say it would be a ceremonial president. That's not what the founders had in mind. They're not talking about ceremonial. We want presidents that can get things done and bring people together. So I heard the meeting was quite amazing. Quite amazing, and the justices were on their game. So let's see how that all turns out. But again, I say presidential immunity, very powerful. Presidential immunity is imperative, or you practically won't have a country anymore. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, Mr. President, thank you for that. So a full day, day 7, and we are going to be back here on day 8 to wrap up the week 2 of trial. And so we're grateful to have you join us. I think today was an interesting day of testimony, but what I take away is that a lot of this was just regular business that a lot of other people have been involved in, including Arnold Schwarzenegger, including Rahm Emanuel, including many other people who are not sitting in courtrooms because their ledger used a wrong legal phrase or something like that. And Alvin Bragg clearly targeting Trump. More evidence of that comes out from their own witnesses. And we'll pick back up with David Pecker on day 8, and we'll hopefully see you back here. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video. Thanks for inviting someone you know or love to come over to our channel. Check it out. Come join us for a live stream so they can see what's going on here. We have a great members-only community as well. We'd love to have you join us there. We do live streams in the morning, so we talk about a bunch of other stuff that we can't get in on this show. And we also do streams on Saturday. We have an amazing community, so come check it out. WatchingTheWatchers.locals.com. We'd love to see you over there and back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. And if you're looking for some more and you missed this morning's SCOTUS hearing, it was quite good and gave our predictions there on how we think this thing's going to roll out and be settled and why. And that is, of course, also on our channel, the one episode, one show right before this one. So now it's time to hear from you. And let's see what you say about day 7 of this trial. Of course, we are going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our after party as soon as we're done here. But who is getting us started on the day? It's Ned Flanders. Oh man, I miss Ned Flanders. I haven't seen The Simpsons in a while. I don't know that I miss Ned Flanders, but I miss like a good. I watched The Simpsons as a boy growing up, and then I stopped watching them. I think my mom always said you can't watch it; it's bad for your brain, stuff like that. But Flanders was a good character, as were many of the Simpsons characters. Anyways, says, hey, 4 months as a membo. Says, thanks for everything, Rob. Good to see you, Flanders. Thanks for stopping by the show. Nice to have you here. Who else do we got in the house? Let's see. This one comes in from Sandy. Says, ACB was upset at extra commentary when taking the case, the J6-1512 case. She asked questions that would exclude this decision from helping Trump. Today, she asked about Bragg types and the Fanny types and how they help. Good comment from Sandy. Cliff Norman says the activist judges in SCOTUS wanted to be invited to reindeer games in the District of Corruption, 6-3. And Knox was here saying, back from court, child crimes, ADA and I discussed this. We both are bemoaning what has become of our administration, of our profession, the legal profession. I know it's a bummer. Hey, what's up? We got Mima in the house bringing in new membos. We got Joseph P. Thank you, Mima. Bringing in Kit, Carol M., Kingsley I., Shrug65, Grumpy Knuckles, Leonard F., Tyler D., and Andrew S., all gifted membos courtesy of Mima. Bringing in the new membos. Thank you, Mima. This one from Spud says, Joe did make some mistakes today in Syracuse. He negates to inform the trained SEALs clapping in the audience that these giveaways to chip fab facilities are not binding and are preliminary. The companies are not under any obligation to do a full build out or anything at all. Environmental and social justice issues can be a monkey wrench, but the businesses can keep the money. I don't know. I can tell you this. They're building in Arizona. I drove by that the other day when I was going out somewhere, and it is, they're building. Like there's something being built there. What's up, Mark M? Mark M says, would love to see Mercon whining like a baby when this all falls apart. We'll see where this goes. I mean, Stormy's going to come up and Cohen's going to come up. Like, what is going on? You know, all right, we'll see. Good to see you, Mark. Very nice dono. Thanks for being a membo. And I don't know what he's going to do. I think, is he going to be as bad as Engeron to try to save this whole thing and say like Michael Cohen is a honorable person? I don't know. Let's see. Hey, Thomas Wright says Droopy Booby was worth the $2 to hear it again. Yeah, that one might stick, man. Droopy Booby. Droopy McDougal. You know what I mean? Droopy McDougal. We'll see what comes out when she's on the stand. I think that's going to stick. Hey, voice of the people. Droopy Booby. Here's another one. Good to see you, voice. Hopefully you're having a great day, man. Jay Dizzle says, hands down, the boss is a better moniker than the big man. Also, love your improvisations on the tones when you're reading the trials goings on. Thank you for that, Jay Dizzle. Yeah, I have some fun doing them. You know, they're pretty fun. And they're easy to read. Shout out to Inner City Press for even making it possible. But yeah, the big man, I don't even, is Joe Biden even that big? Like, what does that even mean? Chubby's here. What's up, Chubby? Says Mercon is probably going to call his mommy crying over have to finally sustain a Trump defense objection. Poor guy. He's like so mad. It's okay, honey. You might have to do that every now and then, says his wife. What's up, Ryan Patrick? Good to see you, my friend. And shout out to Ryan Patrick, who's also on the YouTubes. Good to see you, Ryan. Thanks for stopping by, reminding everyone. Smash that like button. Always grateful for the reminder. Tony Hay, bringing in new membos. What's up, Tony? Good to see you. Tony Hay Munkets. Hey, it's the Munkets. Bringing in Kimberly R, Taylor D, Jonathan C, Jeremy B, JS in the house, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Great to see everybody. And welcome in, courtesy of Tony Hay. 5 more from Tony. Rob P, CLV, Bart Man XOXO. Is that another Simpsons? Kathy's here, and David D in the house, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Hey, it's the Munkets. Taylor D, a membo for 1 month, says, you the man, Tony Hay. So shout out to Tony Hay from Taylor. Hey, what's going on from Knox Bierman over in Texas? Defense attorney says, oh my goodness. Okay, well, we can do this. This is easy. Knox, easy because... Okay, my fellow watchers, I am asking for prayers for my daughter. Her name is Kelly. So get your prayer engines roaring, my friends. And the twins, Sophia and Isabel. Kelly went into early labor. She is at the hospital, and they are trying to keep the girls from being born just yet. They are 30 weeks right now. Whoa, Carson May was a miracle. We may need one here. Okay, my friends. So we pause to pray for the Knox Bierman household and Kelly and the twins, Sophia and Isabel, who are nearing this earthly beginning, but not yet. Not yet. So they're at the hospital. We're going to be sending our love and our energy to the Knox family, to Mama and the forthcoming babies, and sending our love and prayers that direction. If you got them, send them to Knox. And we'll keep checking in, Knox. Thank you for bringing that to our attention so we can send some love your way. It's coming. We've got this one from Hold My Halo. Says, hey, a new membo's coming in. What's up, Hold My Halo? Rick D gifted a membo courtesy of Hold My Halo. We got this one from Bad Poet. Says, is there a difference between executive versus judicial immunity? Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find if there even is executive or let's say presidential immunity. Says these judges have no fear at all, like nothing can ever touch them. So let's hear how they start to lose their immunities, how they feel when they start losing their immunities. Yeah, like if you prosecute them for criminal charges, but their immunity is pretty much baked in. The only person who doesn't have it baked in is Trump. Tony, hey, what's up? New membos, 10 more from Tony Hey Munkets. Bringing in Rox D, Melanie H, Just Call Me Jay, Patrick R, Doreen Food Prep Resource. Sounds interesting. Aaron, Castro Valley, Jackie, Clinton W, and Deepwood in the house, courtesy of Tony Hey Munkets. Hey, it's the Munkets. This one from Cup of Sooth says, Monica Lewinsky, America's Humidor. Oh, gosh. Voice of the People says, hey, sending some prayers to Knox from Voice. Says, you got it, bro. Hoping for the best for you all. Yeah, thank you for that, Voice. Sending some good love, some good energy, some good vibes to the Knox household. Thank you, Voice, and we'll double down on that for sure. Mima, 5 more membos coming in. Chuck H, Mimi Cool Whip is here. Deborah Erdman, Sergeant King, and LCVB in the house, courtesy of Mima. Thank you, Mima, for bringing them in. Hey, Jennifer, 5 more membos. Thank you, Jennifer. Look who's here. S, Luke B, Chad W, Nikki G, and Karen M coming in, courtesy of Jennifer, bringing in new membos. What's up, Patrick P? Good to see you. As a membo, we got Patrick's here. Don is bringing in new membos. We got a bunch of new membos. My goodness. Brian C, Lauren W, Chadwick M, Strawberries here. Kimmy Y Censored is here. Good to see you. All courtesy of Don. Don, thanks for bringing in the 5 new membos and for bringing a membo yourself. Same to you, Just Rhonda. Kim S is here. Sue L, Lisa E, Ken P, and Contrarian Barbarian in the house over thanks to Just Rhonda. Thank you, Just Rhonda. Hey, Will C says, can Trump's defense go over Mercan's head yet? Well, he's been trying. They've been absolutely trying. Good Logic, Joe Neerman has also been trying this and trying to, reverse some of Mercan's orders. Like Good Logic is doing the lawsuit against Judge Mercan for the gag order so that Trump can speak. And Trump's defense has also filed a number of appeals, all denied summarily. So they can try, but it's not going anywhere yet. So practically it's not happening. Hey, what's up? Re Lantel, a membo for 2 months, says, thanks for the double duty today. Much appreciated. Well, thanks for saying that, Re Lantel. It's been my pleasure. A little bit of a longer day, but this morning was historic and this trial's historic. And so duty calls, we got to be here to do it. Thank you for being here and joining us. We got Mima, 5 more membos. Mima, you're amazing. James H, John Doodle, Lacey Ann, Amazing Disgraces here, and don't be hating. All new membos, courtesy of Mima. Welcome aboard, our newest friends. Po Boy, bringing in 1 new membo. Cat J, now here, courtesy of Po Boy. Floyd S is a new membo as well. We'll see you tomorrow. New membos on our members-only streams in the morning. We've got Rosie Posey on Locals, says, wow. Trump was plain exhausted in that interview. Don't know if I've ever seen him that worn out, but he still has the stamina to blow us all out of the water. Keep on praying for him and his family. He did seem a little bit like voice was down. Maybe sick or something, There's allergies going around too. I know I've been feeling a little bit of it. Pamela B says, been trying to make a donation for a month, but just doesn't go through, even though I have enough tokens. Well, I don't know what you did today, Pamela, but it worked. We're reading you loud and clear. Thanks for the nice donut. So it's funny. It's funny, like you're testing. You're probably just testing it. Like, this will never work anyways. And then it just works. And you're like, okay, that's my message, I guess. Like your first message was probably, not about the donations not working, originally, but here we are. So Pamela, thank you for that. And of course, we'll see you on Locals. So anything else you got to send our way, we're happy to share it. We got this one from Felix. Says Amber Heard's lawyers were better than Bragg's, Fannie, and Smith. Well, I think people like Matthew Colangelo, the people who are actually doing the heavy lifting, are probably competent, but Fannie and Bragg themselves are not. Yeah, definitely not. What's up, Salty? Says, hey, give Karen a break, okay? Everybody has had a day when something's gone sideways. I know, we've all had those rough days. Hey, Pinochet's helicopter tour says, I never try to assume. After all, it's a violation of the Moscow rule, number one. But is it safe to assume that the New York prosecution already knows what these witnesses will be saying, correct? It's a star chamber. Yeah, they know what they're going to say. I mean, for the most part. They've had, as we heard, use David Pecker as a good example. He's had over 10 meetings with prosecutors. So he's on the record. He's pretty consistent. They know where it's going. This one is here from Felix. Says, according to Slick Will, Monica, Knox is here. What's up, Knox? Knox says, thank you all. I'm feeling those prayers. Well, good, Knox. We're going to keep sending them over to your direction, and we'll keep checking in, seeing how you guys are doing. Lots of love. We got Salty says, Karen McDougal is definitely a cautionary tale for Playboy bunnies getting fit for a shot. Don't go for a cheap set of aftermarket headlights. Knockoff knockers will ruin your day in the end. I know, and you'll have to write a story about it and make up fake charges. What's up, Salty? Thanks for that. Over on Rumble. Good to see you, our Rumble friends. Mima says, I've asked Tony Hay to virtually marry me. He said yes. We have our first marriage. Our chat wedding. You're all invited to the party. We're going. Thank you, Robert, for everything. I am very excited about this. It's going to be a match made in heaven. And then maybe we'll really have a baby. Oh, gosh. Okay. Too soon. I know you guys just got engaged. Sorry to push the baby talk on you. Hey, what's up, Floyd? Floyd S., thank you for the nice dono and the nice compliment. Says you do an amazing job explaining the lawfare. Keep it up. Thank you, Floyd. We are going to, my friend, thanks for supporting us as we do. We still have a busy, 4 weeks left of this trial, maybe 5 more to go. And we'll see if they get any other trials back on track. But all of the 2024 litigation and lawfare, we are covering, my friends, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much for liking us, supporting us, inviting people to come check out the channel. We're grateful for it. All right, let's say hello to our friends on X before we go over to Locals to debrief everything that we've just spoken about. We got some friends on Locals, on X rather, are telling us the following. What? We have War. Uh-oh, it doesn't sound good. We got War Glocky saying, yeah, Weinstein, right? How does the Weinstein judge? So I haven't read it yet, but my understanding, so a lot of other people are, covering the Weinstein stuff, but my guess is that it's just corruption, right? So New York corruption is evident everywhere. It's happening in that case. And again, I'm not saying that Weinstein is like a good, reputable dude. I know that he's not, from people who have worked with him. And, in Arizona, there's a lot of treatment and therapy places here, and it's a pretty small community. So, people understand, I think, the true nature of that dude, but he also deserves a fair trial and not a rigged prosecution against him. I don't know if it was or what the problems were, but it sounds like they were pretty significant. Salty says, it may be within a fortnight, but remember, every day is Mother's Day. Thanks for a ton of hours today. I'm sure you'll sleep well tonight. No doubt about it. And Megan Kelly, shout out. Harmeet Dillon was very good, they said. And what's up, USA Patriot and Exposed Peckers, and what's up, Michael Allen Hughes, all from our friends over on X. And so shout out to our friends on X. You can follow us over there at Rob Govea ESQ, and then of course follow everyone else out there so that you can connect with friends on the Watcher on the X platform. Also, a couple reminders, watcherlodge.com. We have Sovereignty Saturdays. So on Saturdays, we talk about sovereignty and self-development, and we'd love to see you come join us. It's a lot of fun. We also have the Watcher Meetup happening June 29th. Links and more information over at watcherlodge.com if you want to join us. There's also a business event taking place the Thursday, Friday before, and there's an early bird ticket expiration that happens at the end of this month. So if you want to grab that, read about it and go over to their platform if you're interested in learning more about it. Watching thewatchers.locals.com, where we're going right now. Members only, streams in the morning, after parties, and Saturday shows. We'd love to have you. Before we wrap it up, shout out to our mods and our meme smiths, our friends K Bean in the house, Just Cause, Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, our friend Zach Nichols, Janek, Dog Digger, Economy Pilot, Donut Mind, me, modding down the fort for us. We got Glocky McGlock over on X dropping some mega memes over there. Jigum Geegum, Nathan N810, and Sleepy Dogly, all helping beautify this place, my friends. That is it for us on the day. And we're coming back tomorrow to get into it again. And tomorrow is Friday. And we're pretty excited about that. And so we are going to come back and we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.